listeners, and this is Seth. Marcella has been kind enough to give me a little time to talk about my favorite and so far only published ships of the UV-7G Corvid. I previously published this as the UV-7C, also called the Corvid, on the workshop, and that was before planets came out. I'd used the newly introduced hydrogen thrusters in combination with the classic ion thrusters to try to make a single-stage to orbit Recon craft. Unfortunately, hydrogen didn't really turn out to be as powerful or as long burning as we really needed to make that work, and the later revealed nerf to ion thrusters in atmosphere made it so that the ship really didn't stand a chance, especially after they hit it with the 5x to 1x dampener nerf. So I had to go back to the drawing board after they released planets and we got our hands on atmospheric thrusters. And that was when I was able to come up with this model and take it to completion, the UV-7G, where I've combined atmospheric thrusters and ion thrusters to make a seamless single-stage orbit ship that's happy to work on any planet, any moon, in space, anywhere in the vanilla game. The original ship used 2 batteries and 2 small reactors. The new one uses a single large reactor. Unfortunately, the atmospheric thrusters and ion thrusters are very power hungry, and the batteries and small reactors just weren't up to the task of keeping them running, along with keeping them running long enough for you to really get a nice flight on planet. As far as design features, it's got the standard array of an air vent for breathing in O2 while you're on a planet, so you can keep your cockpit nice and oxygenated. It's got a projector for self-repair, remote control, so that if you accidentally fall out of it while it's 50 meters up in the air and you don't have any H2 in your jetpack, you can actually do something about that. It's got a connector so you can, for one, carry cargo. It's got enough cargo capacity that you can fill it, and that'll get you right up to your max load limit for takeoff, and also makes managing the ammunition and uranium for it much easier. The cockpit is low to the ground, very easy to get into. There's an O2 generator behind the cockpit that you can access while you're inside, so you can swap bottles through the large conveyor port on the back of the fighter cockpit. You can get, it doesn't come with ice in there, it's a little extra weight that's not always necessary, but you can put some ice in there, refill your bottles, so you're never out of H2 while you're on planet. There's an ore detector and camera. This is supposed to be a recon craft, so those two things really help sell its scouting abilities, so you can look for ore, you can use the telescopic abilities of the camera to look off in the distance. The camera is also really good for trying to land some hits with the single gun it has. It's not supposed to be a combat ship, it's not very heavily armed. On the plus side, with the right side mounting of the camera, you get a little bit of this World War II gun camera footage feel from it when you're using it. I think it's kind of cool. There's a Gatling turret on top. Again, this isn't a combat ship, but that little bit of automated defense will help keep you safe while you're on a planet, shoot down the jihad dogs and sabroids. It's got enough gun depression to reach just about anywhere around the craft except right next to it. There's a non-conveyored emergency kit on the left-hand side of the cockpit, so you don't accidentally empty the emergency kit while you're docked up to anything. And it's got a rifle, some magazines, some tools, just in case you get stranded somewhere and you need to not die to jihad dogs. I've used several mods on the ship. It's largely aesthetic ones. As you'll see in a moment, Marcello's UV-7M Corvid makes do just fine without the mods. I use fighter cockpit LCDs just to get a little bit of immersion and a little more data display going. I also use them to get rid of the very bright blue screens in the cockpit. I like the older orange CRT kind of look. It's got a Ravenbolt turret on top, Ravenbolt compact turret. It's exactly the same, durability-wise damage-wise as the vanilla Gatling turret for small grids. The differences are that it blends in a little bit better with the surrounding blocks by having that square base, and it's got a smaller hitbox so that when you're trying to land in a hangar, it's only 2 blocks tall instead of the 4 or 5 that vanilla one is. So we can demonstrate that by standing on top of these turrets. So you can see I'm standing up on top of the vanilla turret, and Marcelo's standing on the Ravenbolt one, and I'm floating in the air because the vanilla hitbox is just that big, and it'll prevent the vanilla Corvid from actually docking in a hangar that's only 2 large grid blocks tall, and that can be a pain. I used Darth Biomech's armored thrusters. These are an aesthetic choice, and they actually kind of hurt my Corvid. They're very heavy on the small grids, 10 steel plates instead of 1, so that cuts significantly into the ship's ability to carry cargo for just making it more streamlined. I use Axe Lion thrusters. This is a lesser known mod pack on the workshop, and these are a handful of thrusters that are very well balanced with the vanilla thrusters. The mediums that I'm using here in particular are half the components, half the thrust, half the power requirements of a large grid thruster, half the block volume, but 2/3 of the surface area. So I think that's very well balanced with the large thrusters you see in the vanilla game. I use Bex landing gear. These are heavier. Again, it's something that's hurting the Corvid because that mass to thrust is very important for an atmospheric ship. But they do provide a little bit of benefit by being tougher, for having more components in them. So if you land a little rougher with this one, the landing gear will help you take care of that. And the last, and certainly not least, is OKI Weapon Pack. It's one of the better balanced weapon mods out there, and all I've done is just use it for the 23mm nose gun.
Well, Seth, I think you have made a really good description of the craft and especially the pros that the usage of these particular mods have. And I think maybe Whiplash has an opinion about it, and is that if you're using mods that keep the craft together and it just falls apart without them, maybe you need to rethink it, or like have a friendlier design that would make it not, prone to breaking if maybe the mod stops being updated.
Yeah. It's always frustrating is you get something cool from the workshop and you maybe don't want to subscribe to all the mods, and you paste it in, and sometimes depending on how the mods were used, how the ship's put together, you just paste it in and it just breaks in half. Or they mounted gyros on a modded piece, and without that there, the gyros just explode their way out of the ship.
Gyro ball pit for the win.
Exactly, like they always tend to do. And that was basically one of the main reasons why I decided to go full vanilla with my version, the M4 Mars version of the Corvid. And I did have to make some compromises with it, and particularly when it comes to the turret. You were mentioning the white base, which is kind of ridiculous. So the air intake kind of like suffered a little, and that's I know many people consider it like a matter of preference. But if I'm gonna have a turbine engine which is sucking up air, I don't want to be cheaty with it and fully cover it. So I want to have that nice and clean air intake there. Although it's not doing anything, but it's part of the aesthetics of the ship. I'm basically running with 4 per side small thrusters to kind of like supplement the lack of using the medium thruster. But well, the craft actually breaks not so well. Basically, what it does is kind of like it forces the player to maneuver the Corvid in like a beetle way, like a real life beetle or closer to a helicopter. You have to tilt the nose up to brake or to move backwards and so on. So it's kind of nice from that perspective. A little bit of role playing there. I retain the atmospheric thrusters facing down for Beetle, which is surprisingly powerful. I was actually one of the things that sold me on the Corvid when I first saw it when Seth was using it in our server, is the fact that with so many cellular parts and in such a like an economic package, you can get a really good performance craft. I
Yeah, that's
did. Oh, go ahead.
uh, one thing. A couple things to note. I actually had a vanilla version of the Corvid 7C, the original one, but Marcelo surprised me with this UV7M, and he'd done such a good job with it that I didn't really bother doing a vanilla version of my own because he just nailed it. He did keep the original battery and small reactor arrangement that I'd had in the original Corvid. Makes it cheaper, so it's a little more disposable. Does limit the flight times, but it's good for vanilla. The small thrusters were, for one, the ship's very small, and you kind of only have room for the small thrusters. It'd be terribly difficult to fit a downward large thruster on this anywhere. But at the cost of greater power consumption, the small thrusters actually provide better thrust to weight and better thrust to surface area than the large thruster.
Yeah, I think it's something like 5 small thrusters is equivalent to a large thruster in terms of thrust capacity.
Yeah, the smalls are 80,000 newton, 80,000 newtons each, and the large one is 408,000 newtons each.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't translate directly with the ions, which is really useful for planets.
Yeah.
Now, I did cave in a little when it comes to weapons, mainly thanks to Whiplash over there, and you'll see why soon. I decided to keep a larger array of rocket launchers, and, well, 2 vanilla Gatlings, which are at best laughable, at worst just don't do anything. I tend to make my builds with just a single mod, which is the OKI weapons pack, which Seth is using. I just decided to go vanilla with this one just for ease of pasting in or building in other servers.
And because I bothered him about it.
Yeah, exactly, and let's check out why.
Yeah, so if you recall, Seth said that the Corvid wasn't a combat craft. I kind of took that as a challenge. Um, so the first thing you'll see is on the nose, rather than 1 gun or 2 guns, we have 4, because 2 guns, all you're going to end up doing is tickling your enemy, and that's not good. Also, those rocket pods are sequenced using my weapon sequencing code, so it can fire 8 rockets per second in a kind of a machine gun style. Also, I added a whole bunch more thrusters all around this thing. The first thing you'll notice that's different about the other ones is on the wingtips. I have 4 atmospheric retro thrusters because I can't fly. So, like Marcelo's and Seth's versions, you would bank the nose up to slow down. I kept crashing into stuff, so I decided to add in some thrusters and give it a little spiky thing on the end to make it look cool. The unfortunate part about adding more thrusters is that, 1, it became less disposable, and 2, I needed more power. So what I did is I managed to cram a large reactor and 2 batteries into this thing. So it's quite a bit more expensive, but it can lay on quite a bunch.
I will point out that when you're using it for strafing runs, the forward thrust is actually really important. My Corvid, I've been developing an attack version after seeing what you guys have done, and it absolutely needs a little bit of the retro atmospheric thrust if you're going to do strafing runs in atmosphere. Without it, I mean, you can see on Marcelo's tail boom, he's snuck his atmospheric thrusters in there. But without it, you just fall forward too fast, and you can't do a really effective strafing run with it.
Oh yeah, and also since I kind of abandoned the cheap factor of this, I went ahead and put in some status screens on the left and right sides. Both programs, the weapon sequencer and the status screen, were written by me because I'm too stubborn to use anyone else's codes. But the status screens give the pilot very useful information like the dampener status, how much ammo you have, and your current position, velocity, and acceleration, which can come in very handy when you want to get rid of the big clunky HUD when you're going in for a strafing run.
Well, and the last but not least, we have the Rook, which is originally was called the Fat Corvid. It was a prototype, and Seth has a really interesting story about it.
Yeah, we were working on Marcelo's dropship for the MTF, the Bobcat, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was having some trouble trying to cram in all the thrusters it needed, along with all the troop carrying capacity and everything, in the standard 5x5x2 hangar bay space that MTF small ships use. And I was getting a little fed up with trying to do my own spin on it, trying to make my own improvements, and I just thought, well, a Corvid will fit in that space. What if I just replaced the tail boom with a passenger compartment? So I did, and it was hideous. Marcelo liked it, so I said he could have it.
Oh, and I did. It was basically, yeah, like you said, like a Corvid that had a box on its tail, and the biggest battle was the wing, I have to admit. And I want to have a wing that would look aerodynamic and would also enable the signature of the Corvid, which are these tiny turbines facing down. So I only had to add a couple more because we discovered when we're doing tests in our dedicated survival server that at high altitudes, the tops of the mountains and mountain peaks, it was having a lot of trouble. So basically, you were just hovering above the ground. So it was needed, and I ended up having this kind of like a flat wing with like a large surface, and I kept basically everything else. It's not a big change in relation to how it handles. Um, it does kind of like trades cargo capacity for troop capacity. So now you can carry 4 people with their inventories, but the consequence was that I had to remove the rocket launchers. Although you can remove it, you can make this into a more of a gunship configuration. You may wanna like have the people drop their inventory or only carry 2 persons. That's basically the only trade out that is suffered. As a last note, I think the Corvid, at least in our group of friends, is being one of the most successful and popular designs. Like, for example, our 2 factions have adopted it, besides the original faction that Seth created. So, and many of the players that fly it and or the guys that play with us have actually tried it and like it so much. So I hope you also enjoy it when we post all of the versions in the workshop.
Yeah, and if you do grab it, I would love to see it. I mean, it's very flattering when somebody likes it enough that they are going to take it and make it their own. It's very flattering that Marcelo and Whip have done so. If you enjoy it, I'd love to see it in your colors. Send me a screenshot. Let me see what you're doing with it.